So you don't need a full renovation to make your home feel luxurious and expensive. You just need to know where to look. Because here's the truth. Most spaces don't look cheap because of what's in them, they look cheap because of how those things are styled. Because luxury isn't about spending more, it's about editing your space better. It's the way that light hits a surface, the way materials contrast, the way every object feels like it belongs. But fortunately for us, you can achieve that high-end look in under a minute if you know what to do. So in today's video, you're going to learn a handful of 1-minute tricks that instantly make any room look 10 times more luxurious and expensive. These are simple, subtle tweaks with no renovations required whatsoever. And once you see how such small changes can completely shift how a room feels, I promise you, you'll never look at luxury the same way again. So the easiest way to make any counter look instantly expensive is by upgrading what you already use every day. And in this case, that means swapping out your nasty plastic bottles for matching amber glass ones. It's one of those tiny details that changes how the whole space feels. The weight, clarity, and uniform color create this calm, high-end look in just a few seconds. And using amber bottles with brushed brass pumps just take this a step further, because the warm tone of the metal adds depth to an otherwise neutral setup, while the tinted glass softens reflections and keeps things from feeling sterile. And when you place them against light stone or an off-white background, it makes that subtle contrast stand out without shouting for attention. But if you prefer a softer, more modern feel, then you can go for frosted amber instead of clear glass. It diffuses light beautifully and gives that matte, understated finish that looks quietly expensive. And lining up a neat trio of dish soap, hand wash, and lotion adds some clean rhythm that feels deliberate and balanced. Now, to make this look styled without feeling overdone, elevate the bottles slightly on a small riser or a low tray. And then pair them with an accent piece like a ceramic vase or a subtle branch, something that adds texture without stealing focus. The amber tones blend naturally with linen, beige, or any kind of light wood, giving that effortless warmth that you see in boutique hotels. But once your counters look clean, the next step is to control what sits on them. And grouping small items onto a tray or bowl instantly makes everything feel intentional. And it turns your clutter into a single organized setup, the kind of thing that you'd see in a high-end restaurant or a styled photo shoot. So on a coffee table, you can use a round woven tray to define a single focal point instead of spreading all your stuff all over the table. And you want to keep this tight. So a candle, a small vase, maybe a decorative object, but then you can let any books and the textured wood table itself do the heavy lifting. So the tray gives boundaries, the books add some height, and the natural fibers keep things warm and grounded. So it looks styled, but not try-hard. And in an entryway setup, a tray instantly elevates any sort of plain console you've got there. And it's not about filling it up, it's about showing control. So again, one candle holder, a slim lamp, maybe a catch-all bowl all together, and then leave the rest of the space open. The negative space around that group creates calm, and that calm feels expensive. Now, next to your bed, you can use a shallow bowl to hide what you actually reach for. So it could be earbuds, lip balm, medication, rings, whatever it is. But that'll keep the surface clean. And then you can have a lamp, maybe a framed piece of art, and a candle sitting out of the bowl, but everything else disappears into that bowl or in an open shelf below. This is such a simple containment trick that keeps the look calm and upscale, even if you're using the space every night. Because less visual noise equals more quiet order. And then in the kitchen, luxury leans minimal, so you want to keep your tray edit tight. So a round stone tray with just the essentials, things like oil, salt and pepper grinders, maybe a tiny bud vase, that feels lived in without cluttering up your counter. And then layering some wood cutting boards behind there adds texture and height while still reading really clean. And so the result is a working setup that looks deliberate without looking busy. Now, after refining your surfaces, you'll want something that brings life back into your space. And nothing does that faster than some green. So a few tall branches or stems in a beautiful vase instantly adds height, movement, and structure to your space. And it's the easiest way to make a setup feel styled without a bunch of extra clutter. So on a sideboard or console, tall, bare branches in a textured vase bring a sense of scale and drama without a ton of effort. They fill the empty vertical space between furniture and lighting, and they create this balance that makes the whole setup look styled. And the rough ceramic finish keeps it grounded, while the height gives the illusion of a larger, more open room, which is a quiet but powerful designer move. But if you want something that feels warmer and more seasonal, then go for branches with subtle color, or some leaves. Brown, rust, or any sort of muted red tones add a sense of richness and warmth without offending a neutral space. And when you pair them with dark furniture or layered artwork, the mix of texture and tone instantly feels like high-end styling, the kind that you see in magazine dining setups. Then for entry corners or dining areas, one oversized vase on a pedestal or floor stand works perfectly like a statement piece. The branches pull the eye upward, giving the illusion of height and structure, even in a really small space. And this is a luxury trick that's rooted in our understanding of proportion, because when one element stands tall and clean, the rest of the room feels composed around it. And if your style leans lighter or more lived in, then go for real flowers in a crisp white vase. The color brings warmth and personality, but it still looks elevated when it's done in moderation. The trick is to keep everything else calm. So just a few books, a candle, maybe some neutral furniture. That way the flowers become the subtle focal point. They add plenty of life without bringing in any clutter, which is what separates nice from truly refined. Now, once you've got clean lines and strong accents, the next move is to build depth. And so mixing different textures, you can think rough with smooth or matte with shiny, that adds quiet richness that feels instantly luxurious. And it's what separates a flat, one-note room from something layered and designer. Because you don't need more things, you just need the right mix of material. So one combination you can start with is boucle and linen. And look, I know a lot of people don't love boucle because it can get dirty pretty easily, but there's no question that these two materials together instantly elevate a neutral setup. A textured boucle chair already looks pretty cozy, but once you throw a lightweight linen blanket over it and place a smooth metal or glass lamp nearby, then the combination feels layered and really expensive. Because each texture is playing off of each other. The warm with the cool, the soft with the sleek, and that creates this designer contrast that just feels effortless. And then you layer neutral or refined surfaces together. So if your cabinet or console just feels too plain, then you can combine linen or grass textured finishes with marble, wood, or some form of greenery. In this setup, the roughness of the fabric balances the polish of the stone, while the green leaves soften the entire setup. And so it's a small shift that breaks monotony and makes neutrals look rich instead of dull. Now, behind a sofa or in an open area, you can actually use rough elements to ground the smooth ones. So even if your table or lamp has clean, modern lines, you can balance it with woven baskets underneath or natural accents beside it. And all that texture adds weight and warmth to what could otherwise feel pretty sterile. And this trick makes a room feel lived in, but still high-end, which is the mark of quiet luxury. But if you lean more toward a bold or contemporary style, then you can try pairing plush with matte. And so a velvet sofa beside a wool or boucle cushion instantly looks more intentional because the fabrics highlight each other's texture. And that contrast is what gives depth, which makes a simple setup feel layered and collected. It's an easy upgrade that adds visual richness without any extra noise. So now that your surfaces and textures feel balanced, you want to bring focus to your walls. Because a single large piece of artwork placed against a clean background creates structure and polish in a single move. It gives your eye a clear focal point in the room, and it makes the whole space feel way more considered. Now, the trick is to let the art breathe, because it's actually the empty space around it that makes it look expensive. So for instant impact, try a large-scale piece of art on a blank wall. A neutral piece with soft texture or a subtle pattern adds some quiet depth without overwhelming your space. And when the tones echo the room, like beige, tan, or a soft gold, it blends in seamlessly while still catching the eye. And remember, one oversized piece of art can do more for your space than a dozen smaller items ever could. Now, for something bolder, you can lean a framed piece of art on a console instead of hanging it on the wall. And that casual placement feels modern but still intentional, especially when you pair it with a few low objects like books or a nice vase. The clean wall behind it keeps the focus on the art itself, and this relaxed setup looks like something you'd see in a designer home because it's effortless but clearly considered. But if your space leans more minimalist, then you can go for a striking photo or a print instead of a busy mix. A single large black and white piece above a sofa feels sophisticated and cinematic, and a light wood frame around it softens that contrast, and it ties the artwork into the room's palette while still keeping everything balanced. So it's a subtle way to show your taste, without shouting for attention. Or if you prefer something more structured, then you can create a small gallery grid using matching frames and some equal spacing. But you want to keep the background neutral and the frame simple, because that uniformity is what makes the setup look tailored and expensive, not cluttered. And most importantly, do not overdo this. You don't want to have dozens of different pieces on the same wall, all cluttering up the space. Instead, opt for a small number of pieces in some timeless frames, and your space will look so much better. So now that we've talked about artwork, let's talk about another important thing that you place on your walls, and that's a mirror. Because a large mirror instantly expands your room, bouncing light and creating that open, airy feel that you so often see in designer spaces. And it acts like architecture because it actually shapes the wall, not just decorates it. And the best part is, it works in every style, from classic to contemporary. So one thing you can try is leaning a tall mirror casually against your wall. That slight angle makes it look relaxed but intentional, just like a designer style. The frame itself becomes part of the furniture, and so light wood blends with neutrals, while darker or metal frames bring some contrast to your space. And you can pair it with a large pot or plant beside it to keep the base grounded and balanced. Or for something more modern, you can use a grid-style mirror that mimics a window. The clean lines make the wall feel structured and architectural, even in a really small space. And the mirror reflects all the depth and texture that surrounds it, so furniture, rugs, and lighting, and turns an otherwise quiet corner into a composed focal point that still feels natural and lived in. In entryways and hallways, a perfect place for a mirror is behind a console table or a sideboard. It multiplies light and detail in the space and makes the setup feel layered without any extra clutter. And even a small lamp or vase in front of it gets twice the visual weight, which instantly gives you that hotel lobby finish. But the trick is to let the mirror act as part of the furniture, not just as wall decor. And if your space leans warmer and more rustic, then you can choose a mirror that's slightly aged or maybe has a gold frame. The patina catches light beautifully and works with stone, wood, or any kind of textured walls, and it just adds refinement and softness in a single move. You know, that mix of old and clean that makes a space feel lived in, but still undeniably elegant. But no space is ever complete without proper lighting, because good lighting is what makes the difference between a room that's nice and one that's truly refined. A brass picture light above a sketch or neutral piece of art gives it that quiet sophistication. The soft reflection against a dark wall creates that layered contrast that designers love, which is warm metal against a cool surface. And you'd be surprised at how elevated a single piece of art looks once it has its own light source, because it just looks like it's meant to be there instead of it was just something that was hung. Now, in brighter rooms, you can try a minimalist picture light over a large, bold canvas. It adds some visual balance by grounding the strong color with a subtle highlight, and the light focuses your attention right where you want it, on the piece of art, while the rest of the hallway or wall just stays calm and uncluttered. It's a small addition that completely shifts the hierarchy of a space. And when you combine that picture light with a table lamp, it instantly layers the lighting in the room. The lamp brings warmth from below, while the picture light adds that soft directional glow from above, and together they create depth and shadow that make everything feel intentional and expensive. Even if the art or objects themselves are simple, that mix of light levels gives your setup a truly unique mood. So luxury design isn't about how much money you spend, it's about how much attention you pay to the details. Because the truth is, a beautiful home isn't built from big purchases. It's built from small, thoughtful choices that all add up into something special. Every amber bottle, every tray, every mirror, these are the quiet upgrades that take your space from nice to designed. And the best part, you don't need a massive budget for a full remodel to get there. You just need to start noticing the details that shape how your home feels. So if you want more easy, affordable ways to make your space look high-end, check out the videos linked in the description. They'll help you keep refining your home one smart change at a time. And if you're ready to really make your home feel nice, watch this video up here, which is all about small design tweaks that'll instantly make your home more polished. I'll see you there.